A civilization that should have survived. The Maya never thought their world would end. Why would they? They built cities that touched the sky. They mastered astronomy with a precision rivaling civilizations half a world away. They created art, mathematics, calendars, writing, beauty and brilliance woven into every stone they carved. For over 1,000 years, they thrived in a land that seemed impossible for empire building. Dense jungles, relentless heat, unpredictable rains, no rivers wide enough for easy trade, no valleys perfect for farming. And yet, they built a civilization so extraordinary that even today, their temples rise above the trees like the bones of giants. But greatness carries a cost, and every civilization, no matter how brilliant, carries the seeds of its own destruction. The Maya were no exception, because their collapse didn't come from invaders. It didn't come from a single disaster. It didn't come from weakness. It came from something deeper, quieter, and very human. Their downfall began at the height of their power, just like ours always does. A jungle empire built by human hands. To understand the rise of the Maya, you must first imagine the world they inhabited. Not wide, open plains like Egypt, not predictable rivers like Mesopotamia, not fertile coasts like Greece or Rome. The Maya homeland was a green labyrinth, thick rainforest stretching from southern Mexico through Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. A land of limestone, humidity, and silence broken only by animals and the distant echoes of rainfall. A land that should have limited them. A land that should have held them back. But it didn't. The rise. Genius born from hardship. Around 2000 BCE, small farming communities began dotting the region. Maize became the heart of life. Villages grew into towns, towns into ceremonial centers into kingdoms. By the Classic period, roughly 250 to 900 CE, the Maya world had become a constellation of powerful city-states. Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, Copan, Caracol, each with its own rulers, its own identity, its own ambitions. Unlike Egypt or China, the Maya were not one unified empire. They were a competitive network of rival cities, each striving to outbuild, outfight, and outshine the others. And this competition fueled a golden age. They built cities that defied nature. The Maya carved cities from the jungle, stone by stone. Great plazas emerged. Temples rose like mountains. Pyramids pierced the canopy, catching sunlight long before the ground did. They engineered causeways connecting distant cities, water reservoirs that captured precious rain, and terraces that allowed them to grow food in unforgiving terrain. They turned limestone into gleaming white architecture that would have dazzled under the tropical sun. And they did this without metal tools, wheels, pack animals, or navigable rivers. Everything they built with human hands. They reached for the stars. The Maya didn't just observe the heavens, they mastered them. They tracked Venus with astonishing precision. They predicted eclipses. They created calendars more accurate than those in Europe centuries later. To them, the sky wasn't just a map. It was a story, a guide, a mirror of human destiny. Every ruler, every ritual, every city was tied to the movement of the stars. And for centuries, the stars seemed to be on their side. They developed a world of ideas. While Europe was still centuries from literacy, the Maya developed a sophisticated writing system, thousands of glyphs telling stories of kings, wars, dynasties, and gods. They left murals, codices, stelae, and stone carvings documenting triumphs, defeats, and dreams. They were philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, poets. They created a civilization that thrived not despite the jungle, but because of it. This was not a society destined to fall, and yet, it did. The collapse, a slow, unraveling. The collapse of the Maya wasn't a single event. It was a long, painful, almost invisible process, spreading over centuries. Scholars still debate the exact causes, but the truth is simpler and more tragic. The Maya collapsed because they reached the limits of what their world and their systems could sustain, and because their leaders refused to adapt. 1. Overpopulation and strain. As cities grew, they needed more food, more labor, more resources. But the rainforest soil was fragile. Overfarming began to exhaust the land. Forests were cleared faster than they could regrow. The environment could no longer support the civilization it had nurtured. 2. Climate change and drought. Long periods of drought struck the Maya world. Rains that once fell reliably began to falter. Reservoirs dried. Crops failed. When a society depends entirely on rainfall, a single decade of drought can ignite chaos. But the Maya faced multiple. 3. Endless warfare rivalry among city-states escalated into full-scale conflict. Dynasties fought for dominance. Trade routes were cut. Populations fled. Cities weakened one another at the very moment unity mattered most. Their greatest strength, competition, became their greatest vulnerability. 4. Political breakdown. As kings failed to stop famine and war, people lost faith in the divine authority of rulers. The ideology holding Maya society together cracked. When belief collapses, power collapses. 5. Migration and abandonment. One by one, Tikal, Copan, Karakol, the great cities emptied. Not from sudden destruction, but from exhaustion. People left in search of stability, water, and safer lands. The jungle reclaimed everything. Temples crumbled, plazas filled with vines, pyramids sank beneath roots and soil. A civilization that had lasted for more than a millennium disappeared, not overnight, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Can any civilization outrun its own nature? And this brings us to a deeper, more unsettling question. Why did the Maya really collapse? Was it drought, war, overpopulation, political failure, environmental strain? Yes, but these were symptoms. The real reason lies in something older than civilization itself: human nature. Every society begins with survival, then ambition, then expansion, then success. But success changes people. It changes priorities. It tempts leaders into believing growth has no limits. It encourages systems to chase power instead of sustainability. It turns competition into conflict. It blinds civilizations to danger until it's too late. So the question isn't, why did the Maya fall? It's, why do all civilizations follow the same pattern? Why do we build beyond our limits? Why do we consume more than we can sustain? Why do we ignore warning signs until collapse is unavoidable? And if every civilization falls, what does that say about ours? The lesson. Buried in the jungle. When you stand atop a Maya pyramid today, you see a world both living and dead. The jungle breathes around you. Birds circle the ruins. Trees twist through stone, reclaiming what humans once shaped. It feels ancient, eternal, timeless. But here's the truth. The Maya were not a vanished people. Their descendants still live across Mesoamerica. Their languages are still spoken. Their traditions endure. Their identity survived even when their cities did not. The civilization collapsed. The people did not. And maybe that's the lesson. Civilizations rise through the brilliance of human ambition, our willingness to imagine something bigger than ourselves. And they fall through the weight of our flaws, our inability to balance power with restraint, growth with sustainability, unity with humility. The Maya remind us that no empire is immune to the laws of history, that no society can escape the consequences of its choices, that every golden age carries within it the seeds of decline. But they also remind us that collapse is not the end. It is transformation, because the real legacy of a civilization isn't the temples it builds, but the wisdom it leaves behind. And if we're willing to listen, really listen, The Maya are still whispering to us from beneath the vines: grow, but not blindly; lead, but not arrogantly; build, but not endlessly. And remember that the strength of a civilization lies not in how high it rises, but in how wisely it endures. If you found this story fascinating, like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel, where we explore the civilizations, ideas, and mysteries that shaped humanity.